Chapter 1. First Spark in Cobble Hill. Julia's camera phone buzzed as she stepped onto the stoop of a brownstone on Cobble Hill. She was late for her first tasting session with a local community group excited to try her new menu. Behind her, smooth saxophone notes drifted through the evening light. She paused, closing her eyes to the music. When the final note faded, she looked around and saw him. Mark stood on the sidewalk with his sax, twilight dancing in his dark eyes. He offered a small bow. "I'm sorry," Julia said, smile warm. "I didn't realize." "It's okay," he said, voice low. "I've got a few more minutes if you'd like to listen." She found herself leaning in. "I would." He played again, this time softer, intimate. She felt her heartbeat align with his melody. "Thank you," she said when he finished. Mark nodded. "I'll be back tomorrow. Same time," she replied, and watched him walk away. Chapter 2. Coffee and Connection. The next morning, Julia arrived early, coffee in hand, and found Mark tuning his sax on the same corner. He smiled. "Brought reinforcements?" "Cappuccino," she said, handing him the warm cup. They sipped in silence. Then Mark said, "I've heard you cook?" Julia's heart skipped. "Why, yes. I'm starting a pop-up here next week." He leaned closer. "Promise you'll let me taste your food?" She grinned. "Only if you play after dinner." "It's a date," he said softly. Chapter 3. Pop-up Premiere. Her small pop-up restaurant buzzed. Julia wore an apron over a black dress, hair tucked behind her ears. She served her special aubergine bruschetta to a mix of locals and foodies. Then she saw him, Mark, sax case in hand, leaning against the back wall. She paused, breath catching. He started playing a soft, sultry tune. The crowded room hushed, falling still around his notes. Julia watched him transform, confident, magnetic. When he finished, the crowd applauded. Their eyes met. She blushed and dropped a wink. After the last plate was cleared, he joined her behind the counter. "You were beautiful," he whispered. She handed him a napkin. "You played beautiful." Their fingertips brushed. Chapter 4. Whispered Notes in Williamsburg. Later, they walked together across the Brooklyn Bridge. The skyline glowed. Reflections rippled in dark water beneath them. They arrived at a hidden speakeasy in Williamsburg. Red velvet curtains, candlelit tables. Mark ordered 2 old fashions. He reached across the table, lifting Julia's hand to his lips. They spoke softly. She told him about her grandmother's recipes. He described jazz legends. With each story, they leaned closer. He placed a gentle kiss on her wrist. "You taste like home." Her throat tightened. "Then I hope this is just the beginning." Chapter 5. Midnight Taste. Back at her apartment, they entered the cozy kitchen, barely 8 by 10 feet, but alive with city hum. She fed him leftovers, creamy polenta and roasted vegetables. They stood by the counter, forks in hand. He tasted and closed his eyes. "Incredible." Julia smirked. "Proof I can cook for you." He grabbed her waist, pressing her against the counter. His mouth found her neck. Her head tipped back. She felt electricity, sharp and warm, as his hands roamed under her blouse. Every breath quickened. They moved to the small love seat by the window, rain tapping, soft applause on the glass. Clothes shifted, skin met skin. Their kiss deepened, urgent, voices hushed and scattered. When he slipped inside her, the city lights danced on her skin. They moved together, slow at first, then faster, hungering, sighing, filling the tiny apartment with their rhythms. They collapsed, tangled, breathless, hearts pounding in sync with the rain. Chapter 6. Dawned among city lights. Morning arrived, white pale against Brooklyn rooftops. Julia woke to find Mark curled around her. She traced his jawline. "Coffee." He grinned. "Please." She stepped into pajamas and shuffled to the kettle. He sat, wrapped in blankets, watching. She returned with fresh brew and 2 mugs. They drank among scattered pillows. "Stay?" he asked quietly. She set down her mug, walked to him, and sat on his lap. "I want to." He kissed her forehead. "Then let's figure this out. Together." Chapter 7. Jazz Beneath the Stars. A week later, Julia invited Mark to a rooftop dinner in Park Slope. She'd packed wine, figs, soft goat cheese, and rosemary crackers. The air smelled of summer rain. They sat on a blanket under strings of fairy lights, Brooklyn glowing below them. Mark had brought his sax. He played a smoky tune while Julia lay back, watching the stars blink into view. When the final note faded, he looked at her. "I could stay like this forever." She smiled. "Then don't go." Their kiss that night was slow and unhurried, hands learning each other again, touches soft and intentional. When they made love on that rooftop, it was quieter, not less hungry, but more reverent. Chapter 8. A Knock at the Past. The next morning, Julia was prepping for a food feature when her ex, David, unexpectedly stopped by her pop-up location. He smiled like nothing had changed. "Just in town. Thought I'd say hi." Mark arrived soon after, carrying her favorite bagels. She introduced them awkwardly. "Mark, this is David, an old friend." David left with a wink. "See you around, Jules." Mark said nothing, but his expression changed. Later, as he helped her prep, he finally asked, "Is there still something between you two?" Julia shook her head. "No. I want this. You." But tension lingered like the scent of burnt sugar. Chapter 9. Heat in the Kitchen. That night, they cooked together at Mark's place, linguine with garlic, white wine, and mussels. As the sauce simmered, Julia kissed the corner of his mouth, stealing a taste of wine. "Careful," he warned, voice low. She responded by dipping her fingers into the sauce and placing them in his mouth. He sucked them slowly, watching her eyes. She jumped onto the counter, and he stepped between her legs. Their mouths clashed, kisses deep and feral. He pushed aside her dress, teasing her through her underwear until she moaned against his neck. Steam rose from the pot behind them as they surrendered to the fire in front of it. Chapter 10. Cracks in the Music. A few days later, Julia noticed Mark seemed distant. He canceled a rehearsal, skipped a date night, stopped texting mid-conversations. She confronted him after his set at a small Brooklyn bar. "Talk to me." He ran a hand through his hair. "I don't want to be a complication." "You're not," she whispered. Mark looked at her, vulnerable. "I've been offered a long-term tour. Paris. 3 months. I didn't know how to tell you." Julia's heart sank. "And you weren't going to?" "I didn't want to break this. Us." Silence sat heavy between them. Chapter 11. Love or Leave. Mark waited on her doorstep the next night, drenched from unexpected rain. "I haven't accepted yet," he said. Julia let him in. He peeled off his soaked jacket. "But I need to know if I stay. Are we real?" She touched his chest, felt the frantic beating of his heart. "Yes. But only if you're not choosing me out of fear." He cupped her face. "I'm choosing you because I've never wanted anyone more." Their kiss was urgent, wet, rain-slicked. She tugged off his shirt, and he pulled her into the shower with him, hot water cascading over their tangled limb. That night, they didn't make love to forget or to escape. They made love to anchor themselves so that if he left, they'd both know it was real. Chapter 12. Notes on Skin. It was a Saturday morning, lazy and golden. Julia awoke to Mark sketching musical notes across her bare back with his finger. "What are you writing?" she murmured. He smiled. "Your melody. I'm composing a song about the way your skin tastes after sleep." She turned toward him. "Play it for me." "I will," he said, brushing a kiss across her collarbone. "When it's finished. When I find the right ending." They made love slowly, sweetly, sunlight pouring over them like a curtain of warmth. She whispered his name like a verse. Chapter 13, Shadows in the Mirror. Later that week, Julia met an old flame by chance at a catering event, Noah, the man who had once broken her heart. Mark noticed her discomfort as she recounted the meeting. Did seeing him stir anything? He asked, careful. Julia hesitated.
No.
But it reminded me what it feels like to trust someone and have it torn apart. Mark cupped her chin. I'm not him. I know, she said, placing her hand on his chest. But it scares me how much I care. I don't want to lose this. Then don't run. Stay with me in the mess. Chapter 14, When Music Breaks. Mark received an unexpected offer. A European jazz tour, 6 months, 5 countries, starting in 2 weeks. He told Julia after a gig, his hands trembling. Her face fell. 6 months. I didn't apply. They found me. Her voice cracked. And do you want to go?
He sighed.
It's everything I've worked for, but you're everything I didn't expect. They stood in silence, hearts aching in opposite directions. She finally whispered, "What if we try long distance?" He looked into her eyes. Could we survive that kind of silence? Chapter 15, Surrender in the Rain. The next day, the sky cracked open, a thunderstorm soaking Brooklyn's streets. Julia stood in front of Mark's building, soaked through, eyes wild. He opened the door. Julia? She threw her arms around him. I don't care if you leave. I just want you to come back. He kissed her with desperation, pulling her inside. Clothes dropped to the floor in wet heaps. They made love on the hardwood floor, surrounded by lightning and shadows. Each touch was a vow. Each gasp was a prayer. I love you, he said finally. I love you too, she breathed. So much it hurts. Chapter 16, One Last Song Before Departure. On Mark's final night in Brooklyn, he played a small private set at Julia's restaurant, now reopened, thriving, full of candlelight and friends. He stood alone with his saxophone, eyes locked on hers as he played her melody, the one he had traced across her back. The room disappeared. It was just them. After the applause faded, he approached her. I'm going, he said, but I'll write you every night. I'll come back with songs only you'll understand. She kissed him slowly. And I'll be here, making dinners and waiting for your melody. Chapter 17, Letters Across the Ocean. Every night, Julia found an email from Mark. Some were long reflections, others just one sentence. The saxophone sounds lonely without your heartbeat near it. I kissed a note today and thought of your lips. She replied in poems and pictures of her meals, her eyes, her sheets, untouched. They made love through screens, voices trembling, breath sinking across time zones. It wasn't the same, but it kept the flame alive. Chapter 18, Temptation at Midnight. Mark, lonely in Berlin, met another musician, Anna. Beautiful, clever, and dangerously close. They shared a drink, a laugh, but when she touched his hand, he pulled back. I have someone, he said. Someone I ache for.
Anna similed sedli.
Then you're lucky. Don't lose that. He returned to his hotel and called Julia, needing to hear her voice. When she answered, he said, I could have kissed someone else tonight. I didn't. Julia was silent, then whispered, I would have known if you had. Chapter 19, Cracks and Compositions. Julia's business partner suggested she date someone else. You're wasting your best years on a maybe, he warned. She smiled politely, but felt the crack inside her deepen. Was she holding on to a dream? That night, Mark sent her a song, full of longing and fire, ending in unresolved notes. She cried listening, then sent back a message. I'm holding on, but I need you to come home soon. I'm breaking without you. Chapter 20, The Return. Mark returned without warning. Julia was closing up the restaurant when he walked in, tired, beard a little longer, eyes full of storms. She dropped the wine glass she was holding. He crossed the room and kissed her without a word. Later, in her apartment, they undressed each other with trembling hands. It wasn't rushed, it was rediscovery. They made love not like strangers or lovers, but soulmates reunited through war. After, she whispered, "Don't ever go that long again." He promised, holding her tight. Never. Chapter 21. A Brooklyn morning. They woke up tangled in sun and silence. Mark turned to her. "Let's get a place. A real one. Ours." Julia blinked. "You're serious? I wrote all those songs for you. I want to play them in a home we make together." She smiled through tears. "Then let's build it, brick by brick." Outside, Brooklyn buzzed to life. But in that bed, it was just them, hearts in sync, bodies warm, the promise of forever thick in the air.